to the Cavalier Corner, a show in which we'll be discussing all kinds of fun topics related to student life. My name is Giuliana,
And I'm Camille.
and this is our conspiracy theory episode of this month. And I'm so excited for it because we're going to talk about sea monsters.
Woo! Well, no, they're not creepy. They're just really gross looking.
I think for me, it's just that they're like, it's the ocean or it's like a lake, you know what I mean? So it's very deep underwater, and it's just like, I love the ocean and I love lakes and swimming, but the idea of something swimming underneath me that's super large and super big and could just swallow me whole.
No.
No,
It's creepy.
it is. It's one of
It
the
reminds me of a question, though. It reminds me of we were having like one of our chit chat series, and the question was asked like, if you rather be out in the ocean, is it snorkeling in the ocean or deep? What do you do in the oceans? Where you deep diving in the ocean, right? Or if you jump out of a plane. So what's the other one called? Skydiving.
skydiving.
Honey, you know me in words. People. So the question was asked if you want to either skydive or what was the second one? I forgot already.
It was deep diving, or what was it?
Yeah, and it was a big debate, people, on if you rather be in water or if you rather falling on the ground. And of course, I've skydived before, so I was like, I trust skydiving. And I was like, there and most, I think there was Braden. Hi, Braden, if you're listening to this. Braden was like, I feel safer in the water. So now I'm like, okay, the water and I know, because there's always there's more creepy creatures in the water than you'll see in the air. So I'll
This
stick
is
to my
true.
skydiving.
I think the only creatures that you're gonna see in the air are types of birds. So,
And birds are just lovely.
well,
You
yeah.
know, birds are like, they're like so sweet.
I mean,
So
they're not
unless they
sea
poop
monsters.
on you. But so you see, this is another reason I'll stick to skydiving, because you do have like some creepy sea monsters.
I mean, obviously, these are all mythological creatures in any way. Like, I mean, most of these, the records and sightings of them are just not trustworthy for the most part, at least. And they come from like mythology, like ancient mythology in a lot of cases. So we don't know what's out there in the ocean, right?
But are we out in the ocean to know that though? See, a lot of us are not in the ocean, so we don't have a lot to say. So
Well, have you been?
don't knock those people. Don't knock those people because you don't, we're not, hey, Pirates of the Caribbean, we're not pirates. So we honestly we're not living out in the ocean majority of the time to see some of these creatures. So we can stay on Earth and be like, oh, that's fake. No, they never saw it.
Like, I keep an open mind just because we don't know what's at the like very bottom of the ocean, right? We don't, because we just are not able to breathe that far, so we don't know. So it's always been interesting to me to see what kind of creatures are out there. I mean, I'm sure they look a little weird. I don't know if there are any sea serpents and things like that out there, but I feel like it's interesting that a lot of cultures have like pretty similar stories.
Especially with mermaids.
Oh yeah.
Especially, I know we've talked about mermaids before, but I'm a mermaid girl. Do I believe that mermaids exist? Yes. And that's going to be my opinion. But I don't believe it's like how we're saying it is. I just know that there's probably a mermaid there, but there's like this stored in information where, people, I'll see a pink phone, and what you will see on the phone is probably the camera, or you'll only see the lock on the phone, or you'll see the word. So we all saw the pink phone, like we all know it. Well, we all say it's a phone, but we have different descriptions of it. And I think or sometimes it's misconception of it as well. So maybe, maybe there is a mermaid, but there's always so many misconceptions. Again, people, just my opinion, not those
Yeah,
necessarily of
yeah.
JCCC, just Camille's opinion.
I think that's
However,
the thing. The problem I think is, or just like where subjectivity comes in, it's because it's an eye sighting, right? It's just you are going about your day and then you see something weird and your brain tries to make connections to explain what it is, and sometimes the connections just don't make a lot of sense. It really depends on the environment that you're on. So there's always a little bit of doubt in my heart. I mean, I know when I was a little kid, I was such a mermaid girl. I just wanted to see a mermaid every time I
Oh
went
my
to the beach.
God.
Rust. When I was like 8 years old, I always just looked longingly at the ocean. Like if I could see Ariel, my life would be set. You know what I mean? Obviously, it's just like that was one of my kid things. But eye sightings, right? You try to come up with things, and then if you're someone like me that knows a lot of mermaid stories, and if I see a weird looking fish out in the ocean, might be a manatee, but I don't know from how far I am. I mean, I am wearing glasses, so I know
Oh.
that my vision is not that great, so my eye sightings are probably non-reliable in a lot of ways,
Oh
right?
my
Because my
God.
brain is gonna try to fill up, the my visual, like what I have right in front of me,
Yeah,
stories
putting things
that I
together.
already know, and it's just gonna put that together. But having said all of that, let's dive into a few sea creatures that I've loved to read about, like not just now, but when I was a kid. Cryptozoology was my thing. And I know I've talked about this already, but like sea monsters were just one of those things that always captivated me because I love the ocean and I love lakes and I love swimming all around. I am such a water person, honestly. Would live near a lake or an ocean if I could. Saying that as I'm in Kansas.
Mm-mm.
But let's start off with the Loch Ness monster. Camille, have you heard about that one?
No, see, I'm a weird, like I always dream at bad dreams, so I don't really look for creepy things. But let me know, tell me about it, the Loch Ness monster.
So the Loch Ness is in Scotland, and basically, the Loch Ness monster is just kind of like, I think a lot of people have described it looking like a type of dinosaur, like prehistoric creature. Um,
Ooh.
Very long neck, gigantic in size, kind of like a. I don't know how to describe it other than showing a picture, but I can't really do that here. So let me try my best. Is kind of like, I guess the description says it has like a little bit of a hump, and yeah, like very long neck and fins
Mm-hmm.
on the side, like four fins and a very long tail, and it's just kind of like this
So it's
body
like a dinosaur mixed with what other animal?
as probably a sea serpent, I'd say. Um,
Ooh.
that's kind of like the most accurate description that I could
Oh, I've
find.
seen
Like,
one. It does look like a dinosaur. It looks like because it has like one of those long necks, and it has a long tail too that I'm seeing.
correct me if I'm wrong, everyone that's listening to this, but I believe it's a plesiosaur, the one dinosaur that they compared it to at one point or another. Very sea serpent-ish, very long neck, and
No.
essentially just like, I mean, yeah, and his nickname is Nessie, so because he's in the Loch Ness, and so that's his nickname.
Nessie, like Nessi?
Yes, Nessie at the end.
Oh,
Yep.
Nessie. Okay.
Mhm. That's his nickname. And I mean, it was a pretty popular creature, but also there's a lot of obviously like just fake
Oh,
fake sightings
but
and
so there.
everything going on as well.
So during researches, there have been a few recent, well, not recent, but if you go onto Wikipedia, it gives you like sightings, like things that people commented on. And apparently, the most recent one was in 2015 on Google Street View. So, on the 81st anniversary of the surgeon's photography with Google Doodle, a new feature of Google Street View, which users can explore the loch above and below the water. Google reportedly spent a week at a Loch Ness collecting imagery with a Street View tracker camera, attaching it to a boat to photograph above the surface and calibrating with members of the Catlin Seaview survey to photograph underwater. So they're still trying to prove this.
Yeah,
They're still
so
taking a look
when
at it.
I was reading about this when I was a kid, I read kind of like an article explaining that there's been a lot of expeditions underwater, right, on the lake, to try to find out where the monster might be living because Loch Ness has a lot of underwater caves and it also connects to the ocean. So that's the thing. I mean, the lake has been searched a bunch of times by different specialists, and they have tried to cover most of the lake, if not all of it. I don't know if they
Mhm.
cover all of it. I think probably by this point they have. And there are a lot of underwater caves and underneath the lake, right? Because it connects to the ocean, so it's kind of like iffy on if there is one or if there isn't. I mean, a lot of people I've read just say because it's connected to the ocean that it might be a seasonal thing, like the creature shows up from
During oh
during a certain season and then it goes back onto the ocean, and so whenever they're searching it, just it doesn't line up to when he actually is there. Um, some people have said there's probably more than one. It's a species, right? It's a type of
oh
animal
yeah.
kind of thing. So you see one somewhere and then you see one somewhere else. And it's just kind of like, okay, well, they're a species and they're traveling.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
true.
facts or, yeah, I mean, don't really know. I mean, it captivated me. This was one of the first cryptic creatures that I've ever read about. And I think it was just interesting how they've done so many sonar readings of the bottom of the lake to try to figure out.
Sure, figure it out. And did you know that they have a museum too?
Yeah, they do.
That's pretty cool. Like I've never heard of this, honestly. And I'm like, I would like to go to the museum because this just looks very interesting.
I'm not gonna lie and say that I'm not planning to go to Loch Ness at one point or another in my life just to see.
That
That's
sounds
what
like
they
that's
think that.
added to her bucket list.
Yes, it is a bucket list thing of mine. It has been since I heard of Nessie, since honestly since I was 8, because I've been researching Nessie for a long time. I'm a little bit of a nerd.
Okay, nerdy. What about Bessie? I've heard you talk about Nessie, so
Yes. So Bessie is kind of like the equivalent of Nessie, but on Lake Erie, which is in the U.S. and Canada. It's a
mhm.
gigantic lake, and it crosses both. Yeah, equivalent of Nessie, but in North America is basically what it is. He's been described the same way actually. Very big neck, long neck, fins, same kind of deal. Seasonal type of sightings. I mean, as far as people have seen, the lake has also been searched. I don't think to the extent that the Loch Ness has been searched. I don't think
Mhm.
they've done that with Lake Erie. I haven't read at least about it in any way. I know they've done some sonar scans, but I don't know how it works when it's two different countries. Because it connects the US and Canada, so I'm not sure how.
But this
But
is because they've been around. They have been around for a long time because the first sighting of Bessie was in 1793. People,
yeah.
my great 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 grandparents was in my. So these creatures are way before us.
Yeah, I mean Nessie. Reportedly, one of the first sightings of Nessie in Scotland, right, was just I think in the I don't even know what century. 563, 565. Sorry, A.D.
Ooh.
6th century. There we go. I knew. I was trying to
Mm-mm.
think. I had it on the tip of my tongue, but it was a monk. Didn't know what it was, right? He was just walking down the shore of the lake of Loch Ness, and he just saw this gigantic creature, and then he just started praying, and then the creature went away and vanished. And that was,
Aw.
I don't know if it was reported on his journal or if he just talked about the encounter with other monks at the
Okay.
time. Saint Columba was the one that actually saw him. And I remember
Oh
reading
yes,
this and I thought it was interesting.
565.
Mm-hmm.
And
And
then nobody saw it again until 1871 or 1872.
or at least non-reported sightings. Who
Yeah,
knows,
sorry, not
right?
reporting.
Say. But yeah, so Nessie has been around for a long time, which is why people say it cannot possibly be the first or like the same one because no animal lives that long.
Hey, you may never know. Now, you may never know. Maybe they're like they don't die.
I don't think so. I don't think that. But so that's why people say it's a species. It's just like an endangered type of species. I think there has been a point in time actually where people have tried to put Nessie in an endangered species list so that if a hunter ever sees Nessie, they don't,
Approach it.
needlessly kill him just right because we don't know if it's just
But that's
or if
wrong
it's just
though. You don't know. Maybe, how can you just you see something and kill it if you don't know what it can
well,
do?
what I don't know. I'm not sure I can tell you about that, but I'm just saying I think
The
there was
activist in me is saying, do not kill those animals. Like, leave them
I
alone.
think like we don't know if they're real or not because there's no concrete evidence of them ever,
That's true.
right? If they're ever
But
died.
even if they're real, the first attempt shouldn't be to kill them.
And that's been the case with a lot of cryptic creatures that they've actually like they've tried to put them in an endangered species list just in case so that they're not hunted. Because if it's all because of eyesighting, then there's no quantifiable data to say how many of them there are, if there's just one, all these kinds of things, or if it's just an actual like a mutation of a species too. Don't know. Could be like a underwater sea serpent that just has a type of mutation. That's why they are the way they are.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of like questions, but there always is with cryptic creatures, right? And so
That's true.
it's the same thing with Bessie. Is just like these are lake monsters, right? It's just for me it's kind of interesting how they're so similarly shaped, I guess. But a lot of
There always are.
a lot of sea monsters always are just like people are like giant snake.
Yeah, like they're like, okay, let me add another eye and let me add 2 more arms and let me just change the name. I'm sorry, people. That's funny. So I've heard you talk about a sea serpent. What is a sea serpent?
Well, there are some sea serpents, like they're very small though. They're like not that large or big.
So they're cute and
If you
adorable?
want to talk about snakes, like actual real life snakes that are, spend a lot of time underwater or in swamps, you have like anacondas or pythons. You have those. They like the water. They're not necessarily sea serpents, but right?
Mm-hmm.
Kind of things like that, going for actual species. And then there's also, of course, like mythological sea serpent or sea dragon that people usually call them too. An example of that is the Leviathan, like the biblical Old Testament Leviathan, which is described, I believe, in the Old Testament as a giant sea snake with like
Dragon.
multiple
Mm-hmm.
heads.
Okay.
And then it kind of evolved into a sea dragon, and kind of the image that they have now is of just a giant beastie sea dragon. I mean,
It's funny that I like that name, Leviathan. Like, why do they give such a pretty name to such an ugly? Honestly, the Leviathan. It sounds really nice. Like, it honestly sounds really nice.
I mean, yeah, in ways, yeah, I suppose. And there's all kinds of stories about like generic sea serpents, not specific ones, but like of sailor stories of sea serpents rising from the deep of the water and then swallowing down ships and
Ooh, like a whole ship?
well, I mean, I don't know. So yeah, just kind of like what an anaconda does, like constricts around the boat, breaks the boat in half,
Ugh.
kills
Oh,
the sailors. There are a lot of like legends, right? And a lot of like sailor songs and kind of like all talking about those kinds of things.
talking about it.
Mm.
I've seen, okay, so I'm looking at one and it's called the Ichinda. So, okay, let me spell it out, guys. It's Echidna. Ichinda.
I don't know.
So this was a monster who, according to Greek mythology, it was a monster half woman and half snake. So that's quite, who lived alone in a cave. So that was kind of cute. Like half woman, half snake.
Well, you also have sirens, which are kind of like mermaids, except
yes,
are said
what's the difference between a siren and a mermaid?
Oh, Camille, you got me off guard with the question. Okay, let me think. So sirens, as far as I remember, are in the Odyssey, and they are kind of just like some siren. Well, when I'm trying to remember the actual like the first story I've heard of sirens, and they were actual birds with the head of a woman, and that they lived on a specific island in Greece.
Oh, okay.
And
all right, so it says here, let me help you out.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I know that they lured sailors to their
yes
with their
so they're known for their lovely and enchanting songs.
Yeah, they lure sailors to their death with their songs. Like, I mean, they lived in a specific island, as far as I remember. I can't remember the name. I'm sorry, guys.
Oh, it says it's part woman and part bird.
Yeah,
I thought,
yeah. So the first depictions of sirens coming from Greek mythology are part woman, part bird. They lived in this island and they basically just lure sailors to the rocky shores of the island with their songs. They kind of enchanted them in that way. And that's when the ships would crash against the rocky shore and just the sailors would die.
I no, but the picture you see there, this is not right because the picture that they're showing doesn't look like I need to go research a siren because this shows looking like a mermaid, like just looks like a mermaid, an
Yes,
evil mermaid, but that's not half woman,
the
half
depiction of
bird.
I mean sirens has changed like quite a lot. Now they're like underwater kind of like mermaid type of creatures.
Yeah, that's what I'm seeing. But okay,
But the first
I'm
depiction
seeing it
were
now. The sirens, yeah, the bird. That's
it,
kind of cool.
yeah.
So we have sirens, the half woman, half bird, mermaid, half woman, half fish. The one that I was the Ichenda, which was half woman, half snake. This is so cool.
Yeah, there are a lot of these stories. I mean, I this is why I love cryptozoological creatures and myths and legends because they're so cool. I mean, you can really go down the rabbit hole of all of these. Yeah, sea monsters.
I wish I knew more about these before this upcoming semester because then I would like just do all the researches and read on it. But I'm sorry, guys, I got school to study for. There's no free time to research because sometimes I will. Sometimes I honestly just go through this trance where I just sit down and I just research Greek mythology because I love Greek mythology and I'll just go through it. Learn about, I start clicking on mother and then father and then the child and then the history and I just keep going. Um, Kraken. What's a Kraken?
Yes. So to wrap this up, let's talk about the kraken. That is from Norway, I believe. Yes, in Norway and Greenland.
In Greenland.
It's like a giant octopus or giant squid. Gigantic proportions though, like humongous, sinks ships. And they are, yeah, they're in Norway and Greenland and they that's what they do. They sink ships quite literally. I know there was a depiction of the Kraken in Pirates of the Caribbean.
Ooh.
So that's kind of like a little bit of an accurate portrayal as far as the mythological version goes. It's basically just this gigantic, enormous octopus slash squid that just sinks ships in like it just breaks them in half again, sea serpent style, and just they go under. And it like I don't know when the story of the Kraken started. I know it like it.
I think it's a 2015. See 2015.
Mm,
Well, sorry, 1250.
12, 15. I was gonna say
I was like 2050. We're not.
I was like Camille, maybe not. But most of these are like folk tales, right? They start off with by the word of mouth of sailors, and then they end up in the written word. And yeah, I mean, the Kraken is one of those that I always thought fascinating, and I don't know,
It's
I
not as it's not as creepy looking though. Like this is one of the sea monsters where I look at it and I'm like, okay, if I see this one, I think I might survive. Like I'll survive him eating me. Like I won't die before he eats me because I'll be looking at it. Other than the previous one, like the Nessie and the Bessie, I'm like, if I saw those coming, I'll have a heart attack before they even get to me. Because they're creepy looking.
I
So
think the thing that attracted me to the Kraken first when I started reading about him was just that there are actual giant octopuses and squids. Though they're not in Norway and Greenland, as far as I can tell, they're actually like in the coast of China and Japan and that kind of area. So way down south. Just way down
so
in
this location is
a little bit off.
not a little bit, honey. It's a whole lot off.
But yeah, so the Kraken is supposed to be like 40, 50 feet, gigantic, massive beast, massive mouth. Just one of those like terrifying types of sea monsters that would just make you think twice before leaving home and going, swimming anywhere in Norway. Oh, it was one of those like tales that would just strike fear into any sailor's heart, basically. Like that's one of the ones that you would never want to run into if you were like in ancient times. You hear about the Kraken, you're like, I'm not going out. No,
No, and see, I
anytime.
don't feel that. I feel a little bit more confident around them. Like I think if you're
Would
gonna
you?
ask me, where would you like to be? I'm like, okay, put me in that ocean where they are, because they don't look as scary. Like they're just enormous, but they just really look like an octopus. So that is okay. These other ones just are scary looking.
I think it's the fact that the tentacles are all, it's an octopus. It has all the squid.
Floppy.
Not for me. Not for me. Also, sea monsters are not for me in general. I mean, I find them fascinating, but I would never want to encounter one when I'm in the ocean. I don't think I'll survive that encounter. What do you think, Camille?
No, yeah, I would honestly, I'd rather be invisible when they're around, like just because I would like to see them, but I wouldn't want them to harm me. So that's wishful
Yeah,
thinking.
that's the thing with like if I think about Nessie, I'm like, I don't want to see you when I'm in the middle of the Loch Ness in a boat. I want to see you when I'm in the shore and I can run away very far, far away.
How fast can you run though?
Oh, I'll try. I'll try so hard.
Sure. Well, thank you very much for sharing with us your love for cryptozoology. Honestly, I love this series of learning about these animals, and I shouldn't even classify them as animals because technically they're not real. So people don't listen to me.
Myths and legends for the most part.
Um,
But as always, every time that we do one of these episodes, I'm always curious to like hear and read about what you guys think about all of these. And if you have any stories, encounters of any kind, also, guys, if you think that you saw something like this or any other type of cryptozoological creature, Yeti, abominable snowman, I don't know, New Jersey devil, any of those, because there's so many around the US. There's just so many of them, honestly, and around the world. I could we could even do a whole episode of the ones that I have back home in Paraguay, let me tell you. So it's just one of those things I'm always curious to know. I really want to know. So if you guys want to message us any stories that you have, any legends that you know of, local, international, we're always open for those. We always want to hear from you guys in any way. And also any questions that you have about student life, about JCCC, we're always available for JCCC Student Life
yes.
on Instagram and Facebook, and Cavalier Corner on all of the podcast platforms. And yeah, check out or get involved at JCCC page for all the information of all events that we have going on. And, this is going to be a wonderful semester.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye.